Did you know that 70% of your immune system is in your gut? And today we are talking about gut health. This is a Gut Health 101. And I want to start out by talking about what is our gut and why is it so important? You know, it's not something we used to hear about. And what are some of the health challenges that come up if we do not have a healthy gut? So let's get started with our gut health 101. All right. So basically, if you didn't know this, believe it or not, our digestive system, which starts at our mouth and goes all the way through to our stomach, into our intestine. There's the small intestine, the large intestine, and then comes out the anus, is actually on the outside of our body. And that kind of is where our gut is. And uh, the research that's been done on the gut is actually very new. Now, we've talked about other things that actually have been around for a long time, over 100 years, and there haven't been that much, in terms of, yes, we get more information, but it's things we already knew. But when it comes to our gut microbiome, a lot of what we've learned has been in the last 10 years. So 80% of the research papers on our gut microbiome have been published in the last 10 years. So of the research papers that were published in the last 45 years or so, 80% have been published in the last 10 years. Hopefully that makes it clear. And one of the reasons why all of a sudden there's been more information on our gut health is because there was a breakthrough in the ability of them to be able to identify the bacteria in the lab in 2006. At that point, up until that point, they were using cultures on a petri dish kind of thing, and cultures to determine and identify our gut bacteria. And in 2006, they were able to use some newer technology to be able to identify the bacteria. And now we know there are so many bacteria, and we've really been learning that our gut is actually like an ecosystem. So if you think of our world, bring it to our level, our world is an ecosystem, and there are different environments within our world. There's the oceans, there's the deserts, there's the Amazon rainforests. There's all sorts of different ecosystems. And I can take it down to, in my backyard, there's an ecosystem in my backyard as well. And it's probably something I know I remember learning about it in school, not really understanding it all that well, but in biology, we learned about it. And so let's talk about the Amazon rainforest. And if you look at that, there are a number of species and animals, there's plants that are in the Amazon rainforest. And, we might not like them all. Like the cheetah or the leopard and the sloth are kind of cute and something that we would embrace. But not very many people like spiders and snakes. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are afraid of spiders. But that doesn't mean that they're not important in that ecosystem. And even in our ecosystem, like in my backyard, we have tons of bugs and things that I'm not so crazy about. But it doesn't mean that they're not important. And the same thing goes with our gut. Diversity is really important, and nourishing those guts, those bacteria and microbes that are in our gut is really important. And yes, are there some bad actors there? Probably yes, things that we don't want in there. but most of the bacteria and microbes are, good actors that we want to have in our gut. And why is this important? It totally is linked to our health. And so there's dysbiosis is when our gut microbiome is damaged and things aren't working properly. So you may hear that term, dysbiosis, but that's when you have your gut microbiome health. Gut microbiome health isn't really that great. So what happens? So some of the symptoms of dysbiosis, you may actually be able to identify with some of these. So within your intestinal tract, which is your gut, you could have abdominal pain, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, maybe mucus in your stool. You could have a food sensitivity. So, when you eat certain foods, they don't agree with you. And some of those foods might actually cause the bloating and gas. I know I know people that broccoli will kind of make them gassy. I also know people where cauliflower will make them gassy. And you hear quite a bit about beans being that food for people. So food sensitivities as well. So nausea is another one, indigestion, heartburn, reflux, and belching. So when you're burping, that could be a sign that there's something going on in your gut. Now, I was doing a little belching yesterday, but it was because I was drinking so I'm getting air into it. I was drinking sparkling water and I drank it quickly. So my system wants to get rid of the gas that was in my, quickly get rid of the gas that was going into my stomach. Okay. Now, things that you're not going to see in your gut, that they're outside of your gut. And you may or may not, I'm sure you'll recognize some of these, but you may or may not recognize that they are actually part of the dysbiosis. Weight gain. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about weight gain. I have a little interesting one on weight gain. Fatigue, brain fog, difficulty concentrating, mood imbalance, anxiousness. So these are all things that are related to our mental health, skin breakouts, joint and muscle pain could be, weakness, bad breath, shortness of breath, and sinus congestion. So these are all some of the symptoms that you might find for dysbiosis. Now, can you think, do you have any of these? Are these something that you're having a problem with? Maybe you're taking medication for some of these things, because a lot of people will take, if they have reflux, they'll take something like starting with over-the-counter Tums or some kind of Pepto-Bismol or something to help with the indigestion, heartburn, and reflux. All right. And so that leads to some diseases or different things. And I'm going to go through a few things. This, believe it or not, these are not a full exhaustive list, but some of the things that are immune related. Remember, I noted that 70% of our immune function is in our gut. So here are some of the immune conditions that are associated with dysbiosis. Number one is type 1 diabetes. So this is an autoimmune disease. And so it is there's some issues with our gut. And multiple sclerosis, lupus, food allergies, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, restless leg syndrome. So this is where if you have this, your legs are feeling like they're, I guess, active and they're restless. I've had it occasionally where I've had this little bit of restless leg syndrome, but it's something that is like maybe a few times, not all the time. Rheumatoid arthritis, asthma, fibromyalgia, allergies, and eczema. So these are all things that are coming up as immune mediated conditions that are associated with dysbiosis. I also want to talk a little bit more about some other ones. Our metabolism is also impacted by our gut microbiome. And if we have dysbiosis, we can get things like, just gonna push this off. So we can have different conditions like obesity and our weight gain, type 2 diabetes, coronary artery disease, kidney disease, gout, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. We can get it from acute alcoholic hepatitis. We also pancreatitis, both acute and chronic pancreatitis. So those are metabolic conditions. And we're going to go on to say that also our endocrine and our hormonal conditions that can be associated with dysbiosis are endometriosis, PCOS or polycystic ovary syndrome, female infertility, sexual dysfunction, hypothyroidism, breast cancer, endometrial cancer, prostate cancer, and erectile dysfunction are all things that are associated with dysbiosis. So I got to say that's a pretty large list of different things. And I want to talk a little bit about the hormone system and the endocrine or hormonal system that why the gut. I've got a little bit I want to share with you about why the gut is so instrumental, and our gut microorganisms are so instrumental in our hormones. So this is an example of estrogen. Okay, so our gut microbes are secreting enzymes that activate and stimulate estrogen. And so, which is important for our body. And what happens is if our microbes basically are controlling how much estrogen we are getting into our system. So if you can imagine a dam, like a water dam, I would say a beaver dam because I'm from Canada. We get that. So if it's a dam in the river, and the microbes are the ones that are controlling the floodgates to either allow the estrogen to flow or to hold it back. And so this is where we get estrogen, if it's working properly, at the right level in our body. Now, if there's something that's not working right, we may end up getting excess estrogen into our body, and that's going to be associated with things like endometriosis, breast and endometrial cancer as well. And I know with breast cancer, there's lots of, I guess, post-treatment drugs like tamoxifen, which are actually meant to lower the amount of estrogen that is coming into the body. Now, in the opposite of that, if there's not enough estrogen getting into our body and through the dam, then what's happening is that's when you're going to end up with things like PCOS, and as well other different things that are happening. So this is just one example of one bodily function, and the I guess the link to our gut microbiome and why it's so important. Now, I'm going to end off today because we're going to spend the whole week talking about our gut microbiome, and we'll get into it further. But we are going to also just I want to share with you about just how we can actually have some control over the health of our gut microbiome. And it all comes down to what we are eating. That's the important thing. So we want to make sure that we're eating foods and nourishment that are going to nourish those microbes that are in our gut and keep them healthy. Because if we don't nourish them, then they are just like if we don't nourish ourselves, eventually we're going to die. So the good news is it doesn't take very long to make changes, to see changes in your gut microbiome if you start giving your microbes in your gut the kind of food that they need to eat. So we get about 3 pounds of food per day is kind of a typical amount of food that we eat. And when the food goes down, the microbes will eat the food. And so all of our dietary choices that we make are empowering a specific group of microbes in our gut. And so if you permanently remove a food group from your diet, then the microbes that are thriving on that food will starve into extinction in your body. And so these microbes are procreating very quickly, and they actually, the food choices that we make within a 24-hour period will alter the evolution of 50 generations of microbes. So it doesn't take days, even weeks, to change your microbes in your body. It only takes the one bite that you're taking in now. And so basically, if we can control what we're eating and eat quality foods, then we can work on improving our gut microbiome and having the microbes in our system that are going to keep us healthy or get us, we can reverse some of these conditions and get ourselves back into health with good diet for our microbiome. And we're going to spend the rest of the week talking more about the gut microbiome and get into more of it like I said, for the rest of the week. So I will follow us and check out the rest of this series. In the meantime, OJ, any questions on the gut microbiome and what we talked about today?
Okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing a lot of details on gut microbiome. So, my question is, how would you know if you want to get rid of the bad microbiome? How would you know you're getting rid of the bad ones without adding the good ones to them? How would you do that? That's my
Basic
question.
Yeah, so basically the way to get rid of the bad ones is by making sure you've got the good ones in your system. So if you think about it like you're in a city and you've got good cops and bad cops, bad guys, right? And then you've got the police or the cops that are going after them. So you want to make sure that you're
Yeah.
feeding all the good citizens so that you snuff out all the bad ones and they'll leave for you. So that is one way to do it for sure. And that's a good
Okay.
question, and we'll talk more about that as we go. There are some things that you can do to get rid of things like parasites. There's parasite cleanses and stuff that you can do. But I think the
Okay.
very first thing is to eat the right foods. One thing that, certain parasites like especially is sugar, sugar, sugar. And so if you are, and our good bacteria in our gut like fiber. So if you're giving more fiber and less sugar, you're going to be feeding that good cops, and then they will snuff out the bad guys and the bad actors in our system. So that's kind of from a high level what we want to do.
Okay, that's
Any other
great.
any other questions?
That's all for
Okay.
now.
All right. So join us tomorrow. We are going to talk again more about the gut health. And today we talked about why our gut is so important, and why there's kind of we're in newer territory with our gut based on the science that and being able to identify what our gut is. I've heard that we only know about 2% of about the gut. There's so much more to learn. And as we're learning, we can make changes. And we talked a lot about how we can tell if we've got some kind of issues, and what the health issues are that come up and are related to our gut. So join us tomorrow as we continue this series on our gut health. And bye for now.